All right. There it is, 5 o'clock exactly. All right, so we've been reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on the chapter called Sri Ramakrishna at Shyampukur. And last week when we closed, or the week before that when we closed, Ramakrishna was talking to Ishan, who was one of his householder devotees, about realizing God as a householder. And Ramakrishna says many times in the Gospel that you don't need to be a monk in order to realize God, that the householder path is equally equipped and also designed to take you to your divine reality. This world is scripture when it's seen without me and mine, when it's observed without selfishness. The world and the experiences of your day are scripture. That's why we call it karma. You can always look in the mirror of your karma, look at the moment that you're in right now, and without any thought structures, without thinking about anything, just come to know where you are. Are you content in this moment? Are you happy? Are you settled? Do you need anything? Is there any desire that rises up, something that would make you happy? Or could you be content just to be here and just to be present? Because this moment that we're in is eternal. It doesn't end. It never begins. It never ends. It is the I am of God. The name of God is actually this present moment. And we also take the same name of God whenever we describe ourselves. We say I am, and then we add attributes to it. And what we're trying to do in spiritual life is remove those attributes so that we can just be in this moment and experience it as it is, and to see the divinity in it. Seeing this moment as it is what puts the sages into ecstasy. We see this moment as our mind describes this moment to us, because we live our life as a thought of ourself in an active mind. And so this idea of householders and monastics, it's a question that comes up all the time in conversations. Well, householders, can they also realize God? And I remember having a conversation and was asked by somebody, it's like, is the householder path, which is harder? Is it harder to be a householder or harder to be a monk? And I had to think about it for a while. And I think after my experience of the last 26 years or so, I would say it's probably harder to be a monk, but more painful to be a householder. Because monks, the hard part is breaking it off before you have it, kind of walking away from the world and saying, no, I'm not going that direction. The householder folks enter into it, and have that family, and have the jobs and the homes and the properties and whatnot, which are all fine. The beloved gives us all of those things. The trouble is that in reality, none of us leaves this world a householder. Everyone becomes a monk, because we either give things up or they're taken from us. One of the two, but we all leave the world with nothing. And so it's kind of a moot question in that sense, because there's a lot of things about us that we don't know. One, that we're all monks, that we renounce constantly, that we're expert renunciates, right? I always like to remind people at night when you lay down to go to sleep and you enter into your dream. When you enter into that dream, that's that sense of I am that follows you into the dream. That's your real self. And that I am leaves the entire waking world behind, renounces everything. Your family, your husband, your wife, your job, your money, your stories, whatever they are, leaves them behind and enters into a new world, your dream world, where you take on a new body, take on a new identity. Perhaps you have a new set of memories that have to do with the dream self, and you live that life in the dream world for the evening. And so you see that you have this inborn ability to completely renounce, to completely leave one identity and take on a completely new one. And that's really what renunciation is. It's letting go of all of our identity, that we might simply be what we are, without description, without a limitation on ourselves. And so in talking here with Ishan, he's saying that, he began by saying that yes, definitely a householder who can perform all of his duties and be successful in spiritual life is a hero, deserves a great deal of respect. And where we're going to pick up today, he goes on and begins saying, a man must practice some spiritual discipline in order to be able to lead a detached life in the world. It is necessary for him to spend some time in solitude, be it a year or 6 months, 3 months, or even 1 month. In that solitude he should fix his mind on God and pray with a longing heart for the love of God. He should also say to himself, there is nobody in this world who is my own. Those whom I call my own are here only for 2 days or so. God alone is my own. He alone is my all in all. Alas, how shall I realize him? So this really encapsulates everything right here, that in order to lead a detached life, and what is a detached life? A detached life is a life where you are actively removing the ideas of me and mine from your world, from your mind, so that you don't, someone scratches your car, you're naturally just unbothered by that. That's how cars go. They get scratched, they break down, they have to be replaced, right? We accept the nature of the world. We accept the nature of this moment, that everything changes, everything observable changes, and nothing remains the same, which means that really nothing is as it seems, right? That piece of metal became a car, but only for a very short time in its span of life. It's been many things, Who knows what it was before it was a car? After a car, it rusts down, decays, becomes a plant maybe with a high iron content, and moves from thing to thing. And so that's the nature of this world. And so to be detached is to accept that and to not be bothered by it. When you lose someone that you care very much about, your mother passes away, your father dies, your husband dies, to be able to accept that, to know, that with birth we were also given death. And that's just part of life and part of the game, and that there is nothing negative about it. There's nothing macabre about it. Life is beautiful, and death is part of that life, the dropping off of the body, right? And so it's to know that you're not body, know that you're not mind. And this is really what spiritual life is about. It's going inside yourself and finding out how you're put together so that you can live this life that's not attached to the world, that you're not in need of certain conditions and certain circumstances to be content or to be happy, that you can take anything that the moment brings to you and make gold out of it, create love, create wisdom out of it by using your nature as a human being, your nature of love, right? Your nature of wisdom through your being. So he says a man must practice some spiritual discipline, right? And what are those spiritual disciplines? It's that constant remembering the presence of the beloved. It's the constant remembrance that we're living not in a material world, but in fact in a dream world, in the mind of the beloved, in the mind of God, the universal mind. We actually don't have our own separate mind. We're using a portion of the universal mind that we have fenced off with our ego and called me. We put a name on it, called it mine. And so we work within that. And like we talked in the last time I lectured, 2 weeks ago, that what we're looking at here, we cannot see the thing directly, right? We don't experience it directly. My hand is touching that. I'm not touching it. I'm the observer within, and I can't actually see that post, because what happens is when my eye looks at that light reflecting off of it hits some cones in the back of my eye, and that's it for the light. That light doesn't go any farther. So that image, the experience of this post, is never really my experience. It's a secondary experience. It's the experience of the senses, interpreted into biochemical information in the nerves, however that happens. That gets presented to the mind, and the mind then creates a symbol to represent the information that it's getting from wherever it's getting it from, right? And so this world that we're observing right now is not a first-hand experience of the world as it is. What we're observing right now is the image or symbol of this world that the mind has created for us and is presenting to our inner eye. Right? It's the exact same process of what you see in the dream. In the dream at night, your eyes are closed, you're in a dark room, you're under the covers in bed, and yet you'll see a bright sunny day and enjoy the lake, and your lake house maybe, whatever is in the dream. But it can't be a sun or a moon or a star of any kind that's giving you all of that light in your dream. And also in this moment, it's the same. It is not a star. It is not a sun that is providing this light. It is the light of your awareness, reflecting off of the symbols that the mind is creating for you to be able to experience and to see and to grow from. And so this world we live in is exactly that. So what is it that has become everything, right? When you suppose, let's just pretend that all of us right now are sitting in a dream together. We know that in our mind, in our dream world, that there's not enough room for this log to be as big as it is, right? Because my whole dream world's happening between two ears, right, in the small space of my head. And so this can't really be the size it is, and that really can't be over there, right? Because it's all happening within. What has become all of this? Is it some mind stuff? We could call it mind stuff or dream stuff that's able to mimic a wood, able to become the ocean, able to become a light, able to be the air in between me and that wall over there. What all of that is, according to Sri Ramakrishna in another chapter here in the Gospel, is Brahman. That this substance which can become all things and more, is the container of all things and more, is Brahman, is the divine, the absolute unchanging, right? The changing of it all is the illusion of egoism, the boundaries that we've placed in, so that we see change, right? In the world as it is doesn't have all those boundaries, and when you came into it, you didn't either. It took you 9 months to realize your toes were your own toes, right? Or to come up with the delusion. If they were your toes, you would have known that at birth. But we spend the first 9 months having no idea that we even have a body. We're just trying to figure out, what is this thing? We don't know how to use our fingers. We don't know how to use our feet and our legs. And so this idea of being a body-mind is very natural to us at, 20, 40, 60, 80 years old. But it's not natural to us as what we are. This body was something we took on and had to learn how to use and how to exist in it. And we've moved into a world that we've had to learn how to manipulate and how to hold our place in it. But the nature of this world is divinity. It is God. It is at its root the substance called Brahman. You can't really, I chuckle because you can't say anything about Brahman. Brahman can be and does become anything and everything and yet nothing. Like right in the dream last night, Brahman apparently became all of that in your dream. But when you woke up, where did it go? It was never there. So it's both real and unreal. And that's what Ramakrishna says about this experience of life. And as a whole householder, you've got your challenge because all day you live in situations where the feedback you're getting from the senses, because that's where you're living in the senses, in the mind and in the senses, you're getting feedback that says this is real. That you're a man, you're a woman, you're this age, you live in this place, you have this many debts and this much money coming in, and you own these things that have to be taken care of. But in fact, that's the dream, right? That's the unreal. The real is simply that very center of you. And when the sages went to find out what that was, they found out that it was composed of love itself. That the nature of this universe comes down to the nature of that which is illuminating it, our self, our light of awareness. And when they went in even beyond the silence of mind, beyond the silence of self, they've come to find that it's of the nature of God, that God is this absolute, unconditioned, unchanging love, that God is this absolute and infinite wisdom of being, and that God is existence itself, that we are the verb of all of that. And so you have to practice a lot of spiritual discipline to counter this constant attempt of the material world to tell you that you're material, that you're this body and you're just this mind, and that you've got this story that you have to follow, the story of your ego that describes you, and that you have to go forward. And Ramakrishna is saying, yes, you can get there. You can find out the truth that we've just described, that we've talked. You can have that experience of that divinity, but you're going to have to spend some time going off by yourself to consider these things, to get away from the constant hypnotic flow of the world telling you this is what is real, right? But this can't be real because this will not be what it is all the time. All of these chairs will break and decay and become something completely different at some point. Parts of them may even become people, dogs, cats, birds, who knows. But right now they're chairs with pillows on them. And so this world, we want to know what is the real thing in this moment. And Ramakrishna gives us a clue for this practice of ours. He said, if it changes, it's not real. Find that within yourself that is not changing. That is what is real. Identify yourself with that, right? And get rid of all of the other adjectives. Body and mind, this body has changed a great deal in my life. It's become all manner of sizes and shapes, right? So it's not a real thing. I can't be this body because at no point is this body the same thing that it was moments ago. Everything changes constantly in it. And so we have to get out of this changing world. We have to withdraw to a quiet place where we can, first of all, become aware of these things. Most of us have never even thought of these things. We just accept the reality and try and find our way through this game. And then when old age comes, we kind of wonder, God, what was all that for? If it was so real and it was so important, what now? Right? And so this beauty of being able to find out that you are of the nature of Satchitananda, a pure love, a pure wisdom, and a pure being, and that's who you are, then you can live according to your nature. You can live according to what you are. You're no longer trying to keep a body happy, which is constantly a changing target. My body hated broccoli and peas when I was a kid, and now it loves broccoli and peas. So how am I supposed to keep it happy? It's like, well, you told me you didn't like broccoli and peas. Now you like them. So it's always changing, and that's why in this world you can't find happiness here. All the blankets in this world are 6 inches too short. And it doesn't mean you need a blanket, another blanket. It means you don't need the blanket, right? It's not meant for you. This world is not meant for you to be here permanently. That's why it disappears. That's why we keep getting a chance to start over again, to make another attempt. So we need to spend some time in solitude, and his times here, normally we think in terms of a day or a weekend, but he starts out, he says, well, be it a year or 6 months or three months or even 1 month, right? And that's his lowest amount of time. So it's fairly important for us, if we're living in the world and doing all these things for us to grow spiritually, to give that time away from those influences, away from your phone, away from the internet, away from the news, away from your relationship, your family and relationships. Why? Because all of those things define you, right? All of those things keep you small. They keep saying, nope, you're married. Nope, you're a woman. Nope, you're a male. Nope, you're gay. Nope, you're trans. Nope, you're this tall. You're this nationality, right? So we have to break out of that. We have to get away from those ideas of ourself, because that's what causes our suffering, is living according to ideas that are not ourself. And so knowing ourself to be Satchitananda, now we know how to live. We live in a way that expresses love. And then that will be natural to us. We live in a way that expresses wisdom. And that is natural to us. And that will create a fulfilling life. That will create joy, or what we call bliss, because bliss does not need to be maintained. Bliss is your natural element. But as long as you're caught up in mind and enticed by the changing, flashing world of the senses, you are unaware of what is behind that, because you're being you, right? Difference. Being is here. There's no thought. There's no goal. There's no objective. There's no to-do. Being you has all kinds of objectives, all kinds of plans, all kinds of necessities. But being you is the thought that's happening within the dream. The you is unexpressed before the dream. It's the observer of everything. And so that's where we want to gather our sense of self, is in this changeless, secure, content, blissful room in the heart, called the shrine of the heart there, that is actually a place within you that you have to find. And you find that by repeating the name of God, or of thinking of things that you love very much, and abstracting the feeling of love away from the object, and find out, where is that love coming from? It's not coming from outside, it's coming from inside, right? And so it's up to you to find out, where is the source, to go there and build your inner shrine there, find a place where you can sit within, that you are content and fulfilled, and watch the world happen. And so Ramakrishna is saying, to do that, you got to get away, spend that time by yourself, do some practices, chanting the names of God, reading about the great sages, the great teachers, and just being present in life, not checking out and just following routine habits of thinking, right? But taking the moment as it is, new and fresh, and allowing yourself to express what? Satchitananda, love and wisdom in this moment. All right? You should also say to yourself that you want to fix your mind on God and pray with a longing heart for the love of God. He should also say to himself, there is nobody in this world who is my own. Those whom I call my own are here only for 2 days. God alone is my own. He alone is my all in all. Alas, how shall I realize him? Right, so all he's saying here is that all of us are going to die. Nobody is here permanently, right? As many times as we carve our names into a heart on the tree and say, love forever, it's an illusion. It's love until we die, if that long in the modern world, if even that long. And so to understand that no one is your own, that it's the absolute unchanging alone. Now when it says God is your own, there, of course, as a body mind, we cut God out and put him up there, have some kind of, I don't know, anthropomorphic guy in the sky who knows everything and does everything and is keeping track of my naughty and nice list and going to push me into a good place or a bad place when it's finished. But that actually is just a beginning idea of God. Ultimately, we find that God is within, and that it is the divine within you that gives you the energy to live, that gives you the awareness, that light of awareness, that light of love, which you are able to see all of this with and understand it, that God is your existence itself. And so that is your guarantee. That is how you fall in love with the divine, is understanding that God is love. So anytime I express love or feel love, that is my validation that God is, and God is intimately close to me, even more than that. There's funny ways the scriptures talk about it. Ramakrishna says that God is so close to you, it's like he's so close that he can hear the anklets on an ant, right? There's another place in the Upanishads that says God is closer to you than your own throat. So it's like, and that just is saying God is your existence. God is the love you feel and share. God is the wisdom, your ability to grow, your ability to change, your ability to learn. That this is your constant experience of this divinity. That it does not stay in an imaginary form somewhere outside, somewhere far away. One can live in the world after acquiring love of God, right? To know this love of your own nature, to see this love that's universal in everyone, that if you step back to simply being I am and not putting any more attributes on it, there's only one I am. And all of us are using that same one I am. Just again, going back to our dream idea, if we were in a dream right now, there's only one dreamer dreaming this dream. And that one dreamer has become me, has become you, has become the chairs, has become the wood in the room, has become everything in here. And so we start living life with that knowledge that in truth, I'm not the dreamed, I'm the dreamer. And everyone that I run into in my life is that same dreamer. And that self within, that self that teaches us love and wisdom, is common amongst all of us. And when we remove ourselves from body-mind, that becomes apparent, it becomes experienceable. You can see it. You can bring it out in others when you speak with them. You can inspire others by being present with them at that degree. So it becomes, again, a palpable experience, not just philosophy. Philosophy is just the ladder for getting there. But once you learn these things, all of spiritual life is simply so that that which is obvious can become apparent to you. It's not about believing certain things. It's not about dogmas or creeds. It's about the experience of who and what you are as you are, without story, without limitation, without restriction. So one can live in the world after acquiring this love of God, this love of the truth, of reality. It is like the breaking of the jackfruit after rubbing your hands with oil. The sticky juice of the fruit will not smear them. The world is like water, and the mind is like milk. If you put milk in water, it will mix with the water. But first keep the milk in a quiet place, and let it turn into curd. Then from the curd extract butter. That butter you may keep in the water, and it will not mix with the water, but it will float on top of it. So this is the point of your practice, point of spending that time alone. You become established in the experience of this idea. You don't get fooled into being a part of the dream. You know yourself always to be the dreamer. So this jackfruit illustration, it's this, if you just go and tear open a jackfruit, it's incredibly sticky. And it's just going to get all over you. And all the little pieces will start sticking to you. So he's saying the world is like that. If you go out into the world with no spiritual awareness, no spiritual practice behind you, no knowledge of who and what you are, then you're a sucker to anything anybody says to you, to whatever the world tells you that you are. You're like, oh yeah, that's true. Oh no, that's not true. That hurts my feelings. Whatever it is like that. And so he wants you to, just like to do a jackfruit, you get your hands wet first, then you can work on the jackfruit without it sticking to you. So you do your practice, set yourself up in the mornings for your day. My point today is to be a lover. That's my nature. My point today is to be wise, because that's what I am. And so you sit there and you touch the things around you. This is the dream of my beloved, of God. It's composed of love and wisdom. And it's here to train me through my karma, through how my actions affect me today, how my thoughts affect me today. And I can learn from that, because my life in the moment is always a dance with this divinity, with this wonder. And so we grow from that because it takes care of us, it nurtures us, especially once you become aware of it. Then you know how to integrate with it. All right. Some members of the Brahmo Samaj, and that was just another religious group, Ramakrishna was close with many of its members. Some of the members of the Brahmo Samaj said to me, "Sir, our attitude toward the world is that of King Janaka." Now, Janaka is this famous king who was a householder. He was a king, but he also realized God. And so he's that one sage that everybody goes to say, yes, see, you can be a householder, live in the world, be a king, and still realize God. And so these people are saying, this is our ideal, to be King Janaka's, realized people who live in the world. Like him, we want to enjoy the world in a detached spirit. I said to them, to live in the world in a detached spirit is very difficult. By merely saying so, you cannot be King Janaka. How much austerity Janaka practiced. How long he remained in one posture with his head down and his feet up. You don't have to practice these extreme disciplines, but you do need sadhana. You should live in solitude at times. You may lead the life of a householder after having attained divine knowledge and love in solitude. But milk turns into curd only when it is not disturbed. The curd does not set if the milk is often moved from one place to another or is too much disturbed. Right? So he's saying the nature of your mind. If you keep your mind in the world, it's just going to stay noisy. There's going to be tons of things to think about, tons of things to notice, things to run after. Right? And the problem with that is that the scriptures tell us the ear will never have enough of hearing, and the eye will never have enough of seeing. And so what's that saying? That's saying you will never be content through the senses. You are never going to reach a point of contentment in your life by creating conditions and circumstances that are comfortable for body-mind, because body and mind are always changing, and you'll set something up perfectly and get bored with it. My favorite, not my favorite example, but a funny example to me is growing up with my parents. They told me since I was a boy, if you're going to buy furniture for your house, save up and buy a really good chair. It may be the only thing you own for the first 5 years of your life, but just have a great chair. And then when you save up, you can go and get a great table, and then you can go and get a great couch, and that way you have good furniture that will last your whole life. So my parents did this, and they chose this dance, modern Danish teak furniture. And so they saved up, and I remember, our living room when we just had a couch, and little by little added it all up. And so my parents did that with great effort through their whole life. And the last time I went home, they had gotten rid of all of it because my mother got bored of it, right? And they went out and bought all of this just standard, trashy furniture, the stuff, IKEA, you put your books on your bookshelf, and after a year they sort of droop toward the center, so they completely undid a whole lifetime of work because of what? Because they're trying to keep a body-mind happy, and a body-mind is never going to stay happy. So, even though it was wise to spend and get that good furniture and to have all that wonderful furniture, you can't beat boredom. You get bored of it, you have to change it. So that's why he's telling them, you can't just say you're going to be these things. You can't just say, oh yes, I believe in God, right? Because it doesn't work to say it. You have to integrate it, right? Your words, your thoughts, and your deeds have to come into alignment, right? We use those words in pop culture all the time, authenticity, that was a big one. Be keeping it real. Right? Even though we say that word, we have no idea what it means because we don't know what the real is. We think the real is the sense world because we don't spend any time with ourselves inside. We don't do any inner exploration. Right? On account of his detachment from the world, Janaka was also known as Videha, that is, one free from consciousness of the body. All right, so there's that free of consciousness of the body, not even knowing that you have a body. Right, that seems very far away. It seems almost insane, actually, from the perspective we live in normally. But these sages who have seen the truth, they actually go into states where they know. Not only are they not this body, but they never were this body. They know that they are the dreamer, and so they're living the dream. Living in this dream, knowing that it's a dream, and knowing that they have become all things. And through that, what does it do? It look what it did to Jesus. Look what it did to Buddha. Look what it did to Rama. Look what it did to Krishna. It put their names in history, never to be forgotten again. That's how powerful this knowledge is, this realization is. Thousands of years go by, and we still remember these men and women, that have realized God, that have come to know the reality of what they are. And so, this free of consciousness from the body, just literally even forgetting that you have one. Though living in the world, he moved about as a jivan mukta, a free soul living in a body. But for most people, freedom from body consciousness is something very far off. Intense spiritual discipline is necessary. Janaka was a great hero. He fenced with two swords, the one of knowledge and the other of work, right? And so he's drawing an allusion to this idea that he had two swords, one of knowledge, which means that's the knowledge of the self, the knowledge of the fact that he is spirit, that he's an unbroken singularity, a reality that is everything. He's the dreamer that contains all dreams, right? So knowing that, he's able to live with that knowledge, but he's also to live with the knowledge of action, right, of work, which means he was still doing and moving about in the world. Why would you do that if you're in the dream? Why would you move within the dream if you knew it was a dream? Why build a house in a dream if you know you're not actually building a house? Why go to work if you're not actually a body, right? Janaka had learned and mastered both Because at that point, when a person knows the truth or the nature of oneself, one no longer is trying to attain or grab or get anything because he knows there's nothing there to give. So he lives purely in the moment, spontaneously expressing that love that he is, spontaneously expressing that wisdom that he is, all done through this being, through this tool of expression, this body, this mind, this dream. And so he mastered both, so that he lived a fulfilling life, lived a full life, lived a happy life without getting caught, and knew his nature through it all, didn't stumble and get lost. Janaka was a great hero. He fenced with two swords, one of knowledge and the other of work. You may ask, is there any difference between the realizations of two Gyanis, one a householder and the other a monk? The reply is that the two belong to one class. Both of them are Gyanis. They have the same experience. But a householder Gyani has reason to fear. He cannot altogether get rid of his fear as long as he has to live in the midst of lust and greed. If you constantly live in a room full of soot, you're surely going to soil your body, be it ever so little. So this is true no matter how clever you may be. Right? So he's saying this is why you have to take that time aside every now and then to spend some time with yourself. Because no matter how hard you try, this idea of me and mine is going to stick to you. Because everybody's going to teach you, everybody's living their own me and mine, and that's going to rub up against your body-mind, and your me and mine is going to be developed and start becoming the medium through which you express your love. And what does it do to your love? It makes it selfish, because your love then shining through this body, thinking that it is this body, wants to feed this body first, wants to take care of this body first. The light of awareness that you are shining through this particular mind is going to pay attention to its moods and use those moods as excuses to mistreat others, to make space selfishly for itself. And so this divine light that you are, before it comes through this lens of yours, this body-mind, is that equanimous love of a Christ or of a Buddha or of a Rama. That is what your nature is, to love everybody equally. But when you think that you're the lens and you look out, this lens is going to say some people are your family and some people aren't your family. Some people are your friends and some people aren't your friends. Ramakrishna says that this lens of lust and greed, really, that it is that we're looking through, is what creates the whole world in all of its multiplicity. It's because of lust and greed that you look at somebody and say, oh, they're old, right? They're no longer desirable. You look at somebody and say, oh, they're a man or a woman or something in between, right? You define them because that's relevant to a person who is identified with a body that lusts, a mind that desires, right? And so we give all of these definitions, all of these categories, all of these boundaries to facilitate the idea of an ego within which we can feel like we're in charge and feel like we're in control of the world around us. And that has to be given up. That has to be let go of. All right. After extracting the butter, if you keep it in a new pot, then there is no chance of it getting spoiled. But if you keep the butter in a pot where curd has been kept, well, then it's doubtful whether it will keep its flavor. Everybody laughs. Right? When they parch rice, a few grains jump out of the frying pan to the ground. These are white, like Malika flowers, without the slightest stain on them. But the grains that remain in the pan are also good, though not as immaculate as the fresh Malika flower. They are a little stained. In the same way, if a monk who has renounced the world attains divine wisdom, he appears as spotless as a white flower. But one who stays in the frying pan of the world, after attaining knowledge, he may get a little bit of blemish. All right, everybody laughs. All right, I think we'll stop there for the day. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about anything that we talked about? Nope. Anyone online? All right. Very good. Well, we'll just take some time here to sit and be quiet before the arati at 6 o'clock.